Hey everybody, this is Andre here with the Kevin Breeze channel, and in this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the BLU G71 and the BLU G91. Let's get started. So the BLU G71 has a 6.5-inch LCD display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 270, and an aspect ratio of 20:9. We got a hole punch here for the front-facing camera that looks real nice, and this camera is 13 megapixels. The BLU G91 also has a 6.5-inch LCD display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 270, and an aspect ratio of 20:9. We got a hole punch here as well for the front-facing camera in the exact same spot, and this camera is 16 megapixels. So these displays are the same down to the exact same spec. They both have LCD displays with the same resolution, same PPI, same everything. So I can't really say one is better than the other. They do look slightly different though. I think the bezels on the BLU G71 are just a tiny bit thicker than the bezels on the BLU G91. If you look really closely, this little part at the bottom is a tiny bit thicker, but that's such a small detail. I don't think that it really matters a whole lot. Now for the storage, there is quite a bit of a difference here. The BLU G71 has 64 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion, and the BLU G91 has 128 gigabytes of internal storage, also with microSD card expansion. Now for the level of these phones, they are really entry-level phones, so it's actually really impressive that these phones have this much storage. In these phones' price range, even 64 gigabytes is on the higher side, and with the BLU G71 being the less expensive of the two, sometimes phones in this price range have as little as 16 gigabytes of internal storage. So 64 and 128 respectively are really good amounts for these phones. That being said, the BLU G91 has double the storage of the BLU G71, so this phone is definitely going to have the advantage here. Now, neither of these phones have wireless charging, but both of them have a fingerprint scanner and face unlock. And those are some real nice features. They make it a lot easier and more convenient to unlock your phone. They're actually located in the same exact spots, and we're gonna go ahead and give them a try now. Starting with the BLU G71. There we go, one more time. There we go. Real fast and responsive, as I would expect from an external fingerprint scanner. Let's see if it's gonna be the same for the BLU G91. There we go, one more time. Both these fingerprint scanners are not only really fast, but also real convenient and comfortable to reach, so I have no problem with either of them. Now taking a look at the rear camera setup of each phone, the BLU G71 has a 13 megapixel rear camera, a 5 megapixel ultra-wide camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. Definitely not a bad setup, especially considering the level of this phone. A lot of the times the super entry level phones are missing an ultra wide camera and instead only have something like a depth sensing camera or a macro camera. Now that being said, this phone does not have a macro camera, so keep that in mind if it's a feature that's important to you. I personally don't really have any use for macro cameras. They seem a little bit pointless to me. But again, if it's a feature that you like, then you might end up disappointed with this setup. With the BLU G91, we have almost the same things. With the BLU G91, we got a 16 megapixel rear camera, a 5 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 2 megapixel macro camera. So they are really similar, but the BLU G91 does have a slightly better camera setup in every way. Not only does it have a higher megapixel rear camera, but it also has a macro camera, which the BLU G71 does not, so keep that in mind. Now both of these phones are fairly entry-level phones, and the camera quality isn't the greatest. It's definitely going to be okay for casual things, like a few social media posts here and there, sending pictures to friends, that kind of stuff. But I definitely wouldn't expect really high-end quality photos out of these phones because they are pretty entry-level. That being said, if the camera is a more important feature to you, then I would say the BLU G91 is going to have an advantage here. As far as video mode goes, both these phones are able to shoot in qualities up to 1080p in both the rear and the front cameras. Internally, the BLU G71 is getting 3 gigabytes of RAM with the MediaTek Helio A25 processor. We ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone, and it came back with a single core score of 147 and a multi-core score of 873. So nothing too impressive, but again, it is an entry-level phone. So compared to other entry-level phones like this one, it's actually not too bad. The BLU G91 is getting 4 GB of RAM with the MediaTek Helio A25 processor as well. So it is the same processor. On Geekbench 5, this one came back with a single core score of 140 and a multi-core score of 861. So basically the same kind of thing. The real difference between these two is that with the extra gigabyte of RAM, the BLU G91 is going to be a little bit better at things that are more taxing on the processor and multitasking and that sort of thing. But overall, they're really going to run at about the same speed. Just to give you an idea of what these phones look like in action, I'm going to do a quick demonstration. We're going to start by opening Google Chrome. So there, the BLU G91 did pull that app up a little bit faster. Let's try out a website and see if it's the same. So that time, the BLU G71 pulled up the website a little bit faster. Let's try one more. So again, that time the BLU G71 did pull it up just a tiny bit faster. So as you can see there, there's not really a ton of difference between these two. In some cases, the BLU G71 does pull up things faster, and then sometimes the BLU G91 is gonna pull up an app faster. But really, as you saw on Geekbench 5, their scores are almost identical, and they do have the same processor, so I don't think either of them really has a clear advantage over the other as far as this goes. These phones also have the same battery. With a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, you're definitely going to get a lot of life out of these, not only per charge, but also the longevity is going to be real good. Over time, since all batteries degrade, they will wear out eventually, but these batteries, since they're a lot bigger than other ones, are going to last a lot longer. Now, in conclusion, which of these phones is better? These phones, for almost everything, are basically the same. They have the same processor, the same display, the same battery, the list goes on. But I would say the BLU G91 is a better phone because in the few ways that they are different, this phone is clearly better. It has double the storage of the BLU G71, and it has better camera features too. It has a macro camera, whereas the BLU G71 doesn't. So even though it's real close and there's not a whole lot of a difference, I would say the BLU G91 is a better device. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.